Hello once again, chess enthusiasts. We have reached problem number 5, and it's quite a convoluted one, and there are many opportunities to go wrong. Yet again, we have our recurring theme where, although it's not quite the stalemate situation for black, it is restricted to one move at the moment, namely to this c4 square. It cannot go anywhere else. The main theme here is to prevent black at all costs from escaping through c3 and then b2, and whilst I appreciate at the moment this rook is stopping the black king from doing that, if we want to utilize this rook somewhere else, then we need to overprotect the c3 square. I've already mentioned the benefits of doing an Aaron Nimzovich and overprotection, so I can't stress this one too highly. So just take a look at the board and pause the video by all means if you want, but I'll give you a few moments and see if you can come up with the key move here, which is the all-important move. Any ideas at all? Just bear in mind that our two bishops here are doing a splendid job, and they will continue to do so. They play an important role in virtually every variation. I don't think there's a variation where the bishops wouldn't be necessary. Okay, well, in overprotecting this square, let's just move over to the movable board for a moment, and this is the position. I've checked it, it is correctly transcribed. The move in question is rook on f to f3, and as can be seen, the two rooks are lined up and they are indeed protecting the square, and that's what we want to do. We want to restrict black from being able to do an escape route. Okay, so let's just go through the possible replies here, remembering this is a mate in 3. And so what we'll do first of all is we'll take into account all of the pawn moves by black, but not the two pawn moves with the e pawn. I want to leave those until a bit later because there is a sneaky variation here by our Soviet friends again. So just try taking this knight for starters and see what happens. That's GH. What would you play there? Bearing in mind that our rook on G3 is attacked. And also bearing in mind what I've said, that this c pawn c square needed to be overprotected. So now we don't need this rook here for this. So I think the answer is pretty straightforward here. We want to move that rook on G3 because it's no longer required to protect C3, and we can give check. So rook to G4 check. Now, how many moves does black have in this position? If we note that the third rank is covered, the fourth rank is covered, nothing can interpose. The king cannot go here because of this bishop that has now been released up by moving the rook away. The king has to go to d5, and then rook e3, which does not of itself give check, but it releases this bishop up, which covers beyond. Again, third and the fourth ranks covered, but this time there's no escape to here, and that will play a little part in a moment or two. So that is most definitely checkmate there. So okay, so that is the position as it was. So rook f3, supposing instead of taking the knight he plays g4. Just have a look at that for a moment. and tell me what you think, or just think about what you think. I'll just verify that I have the correct position here. I'm pretty sure that I do. This is well to know. Yep, okay. Now, is there any difference to the previous variation? Well, in fact, there isn't, because all that happens is black takes the pawn, whereas before black took the knight, white takes the black pawn, and again white is covering the third and the fourth ranks respectively. This square is covered by the bishop, so the king has no option but to go here, and then it's rook e3 mate again, releasing the light squared bishop up to do the job. So there's no real difference. So neither of those pawn moves on the G line has any significance at all. So that's back to how it was. So after one rook f3, we've tried g takes h, and we've tried g4. Now the third idea is g6. What happens then? Is there any difference between the previous solutions in this? Well, there isn't, as a matter of fact. Because you just go to g4 again, and you're covering, this is the beauty of bringing rook f3, you're covering the third, and then you're releasing this rook up to do its job on the fourth. So really the king can't go to e5 yet again, and then it's rook e3 to deliver the discovered check and bait. This rook on e3 is excellent for down here, stopping white using this as a flight square, which would otherwise be available to it. So that doesn't work either. So g6 doesn't work. What happens if we play g takes f, which incidentally is exactly the same if e takes f? What happens there? Again, there's no difference, because you play here, the king has no choice but to go to there, and you go here. Bear in mind, don't go to d3, putting the king in check, because it does then have the flight square of king e6. In both variations, whether black plays gf or ef, you must play the rook to e3, not to deliver mate by the rook, but to deliver it by the bishop. And then these ranks and files are covered. It's rather neat, that one. So we've covered, let's put this back. And there's absolutely no difference taking with this pawn, because it makes no significance. There's nothing else available for black. So we can take it as read that that's okay. So again, rook f3, king on d4, yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. So that's take, push, push, and takes. So the next in line moving from right to left would be the e pawn to move, but I want to leave that until a bit later, because there's a bit of a sneaky move there with that one. So what we'll do is we'll move a bit further along and look at d5 as a reply. What happens then? Well, this is a mate in 2, in fact, and so it's no good at all, because if you just play rook g4, there really is no way out, because the third is covered, the fourth is covered, and this e5 square is covered by the bishop, which has been released with rook g4, as is always the case. Black no longer has a flight square here. This is why you can deliver mate in 2 on this one. So that is quite useless. You're not meant to do a mate in 2 on this, but you can do it. Now we'll move to c4 now. What happens here? Well, again, there's no difference. You occupy the 4th rank, so you have the 3rd and the 4th. There's no flight square here because of the knight. That's the beauty of that. And this is covered. So again, the forced move of king d5, and it's rook to e3, which releases this up, covers beyond the king, and there's no flight square here. That's the important part of playing rook e3. Play rook d3 and he has a flight square. Play rook e3 and you cover the e line in totality. So c4 does not work. Yeah, so that position is okay. Now we've done c4. So what I'd like to show next is just this knight move here. If it moves to here, there's no great difference. What happens then? Is there any great difference? Well, again, there isn't, because this methodology here of bringing this rook back is superb. It took me about 10 minutes to find this move, and then of course inevitably you have to go through the variations to make sure that you have it right. But I wanted to stop the king from getting down here, as I explained at the beginning of this video, and this does it superbly, because with bringing rook ff3 you control the 3rd rank, and the black cannot ever begin to hope of getting a way down here. So you are restricting it, and again, like Aaron Nimzowitsch, restrict, blockade, destroy. So I think again we can refer to the hypermodern system as being of supreme influence in so many situations, and this is no exception to it. So there we have rook g4, check. King d5 is forced because we cover the 3rd and the 4th, and this is covered here. And again, rook to e3, and the flight square is covered, a square here beyond the king. So there's no problem with any of that. So knight c1 is useless. So where are we now then? Let's try rook takes f6. This is the only possible rook move that could have any bearing, because moving this would have no significance at all. So what happens after that? Does this work? Well, evidently it doesn't, because as can be seen, the rook can just interpose. This is the good thing about this. When I saw this, I thought, well, we can't employ the rook g4. So what comes into play here? Just take a look at that for a moment, and then I'll tell you. Okay, well, the trick here is to play rook d3. And again, the rooks supporting each other is fine. So rook d3 check. So black has 2 moves. It can't go here or anywhere along here. So there's c4 and there's d5. So let's try c4. What happens then? So our flight squares here for the king are useless. Knight's covered, pawn's covered, can't go anywhere here, and has just moved away from this. So it's just this square here. So this is where our bishop comes into play, light squared bishop that is, comes into play supremely, and that's checkmate. The rook covers the bishop is attacking the king, and the king can't go back here because of the rook. So all the flight squares are covered. And should, instead of king c4, black play king e5, then rook on g to e3. So you're covering the d line, you're covering the e line. Back you go, rook. No flight square up here. The knight covers this square and the bishop covers this square. So rook f6 doesn't work. So back that goes. So rook f3. Now, I did mention that we'd bring these pawns into play, so let's just have a look at these for a moment. Let's try e5. Move it to its maximum extent. How do we reply to that? Well, again, rook g4, like with rook f6, is no good because black has something to interpose, so that would spoil things. And then it's giving it a flight square here eventually as well. If white were to take this, black could just recapture the rook, so that is completely useless. So how does white respond to 1e5? Again, thinking about our bishop, we want to bring that into play. So this is an opportunity to play rook d3 check. It gives check here, backed by the rook, and we're covering these important squares. So there's only one square then to which black can go, and here we repeat a variation that was shown just a moment ago with bishop d5, and that's mate. So that is a good finish. However, instead of e5, just put this back for a moment. Supposing we play e6, what difference does that make? Moving it one square instead of two. Is there any difference? Well, let's try rook d3. Now, of course, if the king moved here, we can't play bishop d5 because the pawn would take it. So rook d3 is no good on that one. So what do we play instead? Well, in fact, we play rook g4. Good old rook g4 comes in again. Black can't go here, so it has no option but to go here. Nothing can interpose. King d5. And then white plays rook d3, controlling this line, controlling here, and the bishop is in check, checking the king. The rook is checking the king, and that square's covered. Incidentally, looking at this, rook e3 would also deliver checkmate because you're covering the e line here and the bishop covers it, and the bishop's checking and beyond and covering the four. So it makes no odds. It's either rook d3 or rook e3 that is mate. That's what's so sneaky about this move here. You could be lulled into thinking, oh, there's no difference between e5 and e6, but there is, because this pawn stops bishop d5. So you have to be on your guard. It doesn't cook the solution, but you could so easily fall into it in practical play. Okay, so we've covered everything there with the pawns, the rook, and the knight. This pawn can't move, of course. So that's that takes, rook takes, e6, e5, d5, c4, knight moves. So we're only left with king moves now. Let me just make sure that I've gone through everything while you have a look at that position again. Yep. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 possible king moves in this position now. Let's take the first one, king c4. What does white do there? Well, we're making full use of this rook. We're putting it on what would otherwise have been a flight square. Again, the king can't escape down here. So where does it go? Bearing in mind that we've released this bishop, stops this. So it's forced to go here. That's king d4 forced. And then rook g d3. And that's mate. Bishop covering. And again, the flight square here. That's vitally important. And no pieces can take that rook, or certainly not interpose, because it's right next to the king. So that is definitely checkmate. Okay, so that's out. Let's try king d5. Looking for an opportunity of escaping up to here and then maybe over to here, but not there. King d5. What happens here? Well, it's rook e3. The beauty of this move yet again is that it releases the bishop and covers beyond that square that I was just mentioning, and it covers the E line. So where does black go from here? Well, it can go to 2 squares. It can either go to c4 or d4. It makes little difference because, again, our friend rook g4 admirably does the job. And with the 2 bishops lined up and the rooks and that, it's checkmate. So that's fine. So that's 2 of the 4 possible king moves out the way, with 2 to go. And we're back to the original position after 1 rook f3. So the king has gone to c4, it's gone to d5. What about king to e5 here? Hoping to take this pawn if this rook should move. So what do? How do you keep this pawn and deliver checkmate in 2 moves? You try something like this. Check. But then the king can go here. What do you do then? Check him again. Coming around here just takes the knight. Move here takes the knight. If you move here, it's your 3rd move, just takes the pawn. So that's no use. So what I quickly discovered is that the mistake is to try and hang on to the pawn. You let it go. In fact, I've just moved the rook from where it really needs to be. And this is the move, rook e3 check. You're checking, you're stopping a flight square here, you're releasing the bishop up again, the knight covers the square. So what happens after rook e3 check? Well, let's just try taking the pawn. That we perhaps would think would be a mistake for white to let black do that. And what happens then? Well, the other rook comes into play, rook gf3. And that's checkmate because the knight covers the flight square and there's nothing that can interpose. So that's perfect. Alternatively, instead of king takes f6, you can go back to d4. So white has to checkmate here on the 3rd move again. And again, good old mate, rook g4. And all these squares are covered by the bishops and the rooks. So it's all over. What else is there? After rook f3, king e5, rook e3 check. We've tried taking the pawn, it doesn't work. We've tried coming back to d4. What about king f4? His last hope. Well, this is quite an interesting one here. What would you say is the answer? So if you play rook g4 here, unfortunately the king is right next to it, and it can just take the rook. Otherwise, admittedly it would be checkmate, but the king can just take the rook. So that unfortunately doesn't work on this one. So what do you do instead? Well, what you do, and if you play here, you see it doesn't work either, because you can just go here. So where ordinarily rook g4 would work, it won't, because the king's next to it, and rook f3 doesn't work either because he has a flat square. So what's the answer to this? What is very unusual about this is that in order to deliver checkmate here, you don't need to utilize this. The answer being rook e4. Protected by the bishop, you're covering the third, you're covering the fourth, you're covering here, and this is covered by the knight. And that's checkmate. Isn't that good? So with all of that, we've only one variation left that can cook this solution. After rook on f to f3, we've tried king c4, we've tried king d5, and we've tried king e5. So the only move that remains is king e4. And what's the answer to that? Well, there's one forced variation here, yet again. And it's rook g4. And black is forced into moving to here, and then that rounds things off. And that's every variation that can be played that is meaningful. And that is checkmate. It's covering the E line and it's covering the fourth rank. This is covered by the bishop. There's overprotection of squares here galore. It's unbelievable. The knight is not really doing anything here because you've already restricted the king to the queen side. But isn't that amazing? I trust that you enjoyed that one. This took me a bit longer, but I was pretty confident that in restricting the black king so that it couldn't get to here, this is what you need to be extremely careful with when you're calculating your key move, is that you look for any opportunities where the opponent can maybe find a way out. This is why it's important to have control over this square from beyond the king, and to have these key squares covered as well. This is a very dangerous, and it would be so easy in practical play. In fact, probably in practice, unless they were players of the highest order, black would escape down here. So you do need to find that first move, which, just to go back to it for a moment, is most definitely the answer. That's the original position. We'll just revert to the position here for a moment so that we can verify that there is no mistake. And there it is. I'm just double checking. And it is. Yeah. So that's a very satisfying problem, and the next one is equally satisfying. And I look forward to bringing it to you. Many thanks for watching.